right, the next section is called socioeconomic status and academic achievement. The next section I want to talk about, I guess I should say. It's found on page 173 in Chapter 7. So students whose parents have not finished high school do not perform as well on standardized tests as students whose parents have finished high school and college, factors that generally correlate with higher income. So if a child's parents don't go to school, haven't attended school, or have a higher education, a lot of times that means the student won't be going, the child won't be going. In my case, my dad had a high school diploma. My mom graduated with she quit school at 6th grade, but later went on and got her GED. Now, I'm probably a percentage of, not a high percentage of folks whose kids actually go on to go to school when their parents haven't attended college. Low-income students also do not perform as well on the National Assessment of Education Progress, NAEP, tests that are given annually to samples of 4th, 8th, and 12th graders. They just don't have the background, and they're not bringing the experiences to the table that a lot of our regular students would come to the table having. The chance of these students being hungry and eating non-nutritious foods are greater than for those more affluent peers. It's because maybe at home, maybe their parents not educated enough to know the importance of a healthy meal. Maybe it's mom and dad just don't want to take the time to cook it. There could be many reasons there. School factors that contribute to their lower academic performance include less access to certified and experienced teachers. There was, and I think there still is, some grant money out there given to folks who will agree to go into Title I schools because it's hard to get teachers to teach in that area. A lot of teachers don't like to be around those types of students. I can't imagine teaching anything else really. They're more likely to have substitute teachers because teachers are absent more than in schools where the students are from higher income families. Isn't that interesting? The turnover of teachers from year to year is also greater. Teachers get in there may not be enough money, there may not be enough support, whether that be from administration, from parents, or whatever, and it's just not what they think it should be. And so they're in and out, rotating between the schools. These students also have less access to technology in their schools because they're Title I schools. Sometimes they won't have as much. Sometimes it's right the opposite. Because they're Title I school, they get extra funding, and so the schools that are not considered Title I do not get that money. So it could go either way. During the summer, low-income students and students of color do not participate in education enrichment programs at the same rate as their classmates, limiting their chances to grow academically at the same rate. It may be that their parents don't have the time, the parents don't have the transportation. If there's a fee involved, the parents may not have the money for the fee even. Also, the parents may feel like there's no need for an education. It never has proved out to be any asset to them, perhaps. There could be many reasons on that. Receiving a quality education is critical for low-income students to improve their chances of entering college and earning a middle-class income or above as adults. So they've got to understand that, even though it looks bleak right now and looks like perhaps they won't be going to college, you never know. I'm a prime example of that. As a teacher, you should hold high expectations for the academic performance of these students and ensure that they are learning the subjects that you are teaching. There should be no difference. I reminded mine daily, when you get a job, you're going to need this when you get a job. Well, when you get a job, you'll be glad you know this. Well, you'll use this in your job because, whatever. Hold those high expectations. Hold them just as accountable. In your teaching education program, you should learn how to assess student learning and make adjustments to your instruction when students are not getting it. That will be coming in year 3 and year 4. Your next stop should really be focusing on that. You need to understand how all that works. We talked about memory in 2010. We've talked about meaningful learning experiences versus rote learning in 2010. Those are the foundation pieces. But now, how are you going to make sure your students are getting it? Understanding what students know when they enter your classroom and being able to draw on real-world experiences that are meaningful to your students will contribute to your being successful with low-income students. When you can teach them in a way that this is something you'll use in the real world, you're solving a real-world problem, they're dealing with things they'll use in the real world, then that's when the learning becomes important. One thing I found it really fast with my Hispanic students, their parents were on them constantly, were checking in on them, making sure their child was getting it, because that was their lifeline in the public, because the kids actually could do the interpretation for them when they went to the stores and count up the change and so forth. Interesting when you start talking about the poverty, socioeconomic status, and how that all affects. You're going to find this to be true in the public school system.